Okay, I'm gonna record this again. Now I don't know if you saw my initial video on this channel. You know that I was going to film this on my GoPro on my way to work in the morning when I wake up. Just to kind of give me some, not only do it consistently, but to give me something to wake me up in the morning. That didn't work out. Now, the reason being is because, like an idiot, I forgot that you need light, and a lot of light, to make the video seem watchable. And also, GoPros do not capture as much light as some other, as other cameras do. And essentially what happened was I set it up, had it ready to charge, had it set up in my car, got all the way to my first stop, and went in and worked it. And I actually just now, it's probably about 1 in the afternoon now, just got through with my second stop to work, and went back and decided to check it up and see how it went. And you can barely see, like, my skin, because obviously I'm white as shit. You can barely see my skin in some of the shots, because like I actually had turned on a couple of my lights. Like I have a light up here, which you can't see obviously, but I had that set up, and I had it all set up and ready to go, and I went back and rewatched it, and you can barely see me. You can hear me just fine, but at that point it becomes a podcast. It's not even a video anymore. So I'm going to record this again. And this is going to be on my phone, on my Samsung. So, if the quality's not as good, then, you know, whatever. But, anyway, it's actually not a bad thing, because while I'm at work, I actually found a few more articles, a few more things to talk about. So, and there will be, because I'm doing this on my phone, I will have to make multiple videos if I go longer than 10 minutes, which I'm pretty sure I will. Let me reset this so that I can see. Here we go. Yeah, I'm already at like 2.5 minutes. But anyway, the first thing I want to talk about is the concept of retail and and working in retail. Because as you can see by my shirt here, I work for a Coca-Cola distributor. And before that, I actually worked at a grocery store. I did that for almost, I guess it was almost 10 years. I guess depending on if you count when I was legally working there, because it was my family's business. And because of that, I was able to actually start working a lot earlier. Wasn't on the clock or anything, and I didn't work full time. It wasn't no child abuse laws were broken, obviously. Which, even if they were, I mean, family business, I didn't care. But something that people that don't work in retail or have never worked in retail just don't really get. And I'm kind of piggybacking off of a video that another YouTuber by the name of David So, he made a video of dealing with racism on the other end of retail. And he goes, for a short description, he essentially goes into a car dealership and gets treated like a second-class citizen. Which, you know, I don't know the whole details. You can go to his video and watch it. And it's pretty telling. If you've ever worked in retail, you know about the kind of people you have to deal with. For all my people who have worked in retail, you know the struggles we have to deal with. You deal with people who are just pissed off for no reason. You deal with people who won't take no for an answer. They won't take the answer you give them for an answer. So you have to get the manager who they feel has more authority. And then the manager happens to tell them exactly the same thing you do. So, I'm sorry, I'm having to figure out how to hold this. I'm having to hold this with my hand while I'm doing this, so. Anyway. So because of that, you end up getting very jaded. You get very cynical. I think the thing you always hear is retail workers see the worst in people, and it is, and you do, because people a lot of people tend to show their worst face when things go wrong, when things aren't going the way they want it to. And that's understandable to an extent. The problem is you get to see people ranting and getting mad over the tiniest of things. For example, I went to lunch somewhere, and a guy asked what this food, what a certain dish was. It was a buffet style. And he told him what it was, but the answer wasn't good enough for him. You know, it was some chicken something. I'm not sure. I don't remember what it was. But it was a chicken dish, and the guy told him, I think maybe it was like, I don't know, a spicy type of chicken or something. But the guy asked again, but instead of asking the specifics of what it was, he said, "What is this?" And the guy told him the name. And he said, No, what is this? And the guy told him the name again. And he was getting irritated, and he said, all right, whatever. And then turned around, and he talked to the guy that he was eating with, and he said, stupid person won't tell me what it is. And I'm sitting here like, he told you exactly what it was. He told you the name. If you wanted specifics, you needed to ask, like, what is this made with? What kind of sauce is this? Whatever. And I'm sure the guy would have been happy to tell him. But he didn't think about it. The guy's working, he's putting food on the buffet, and you're sitting there being particular and picky, and you're not, and I'm rambling again. But anyway, this is the kind of stuff we deal with on retail. Somebody asks you what this product is, and they don't like the answer. They'll ask you, instead of asking the question a different way, they ask you the same question again and expect you to give a different answer. And, I mean, unless you just forethink, unless you can just magically pull out the question from their head, which I can do occasionally, essentially you have to answer differently every time. And the reason I'm telling you these specific examples, this is just one of the very many crap things we have to deal with in retail. Now, I say all this because I say all this to say none of this, what's the word I'm looking for? None of this acknowledges or allows the kind of stuff that you hear for racism or just prejudice in retail, in the line of work. And I know David So talks more about racism with his situation. I'm going to talk more so about prejudice, because in the business of retail, you do see people be more prejudiced towards certain customers. It doesn't even have to be about race. For example, I can walk into a business and see workers. All right, let me give you an example. I can walk into a business and see a worker talking to a customer, it's just standing there. Let's say she's just standing there, and 3 different people walk up to her. Let's say, or 4 different people, 2 whites and 2 blacks, or African Americans. Let me be politically correct here. 2 Caucasians, 2 African Americans. She may only talk to one, or try to actually actively help one of those. And it could be nothing about the race. It could be the fact that maybe they look happier, or maybe they're not asking the question the way that the worker wants it to. So the worker decides to ignore the other 3 and go help the one that she feels needed. She feels like she needs to help. Unfortunately, that your job as a retail worker, my job as a retail worker, is not to judge customers on how they ask a question or what they ask. Your job is to help them. My job is to help them. There are people that come in stores all the time, especially when I worked in a grocery store, that I didn't want to help. They look like just absolute buttholes. They smelled horrible. Some of them smelled horrible. You didn't want to touch them. They were assholes. I'm sorry. I'm going to say assholes straight up. All right, give me a second, guys.